Hey everybody, welcome to another video. um, Sorry, it's already Yanni McYonstein already today. I already read off the bat. But anyways, I'm going to talk about not magazine subscriptions, comic book subscriptions. Maybe I talked about this in the past when I got that Spider-Woman number 4, but I'm going to get more into it. I'm actually going to talk about the comics themselves. So, kind of two different things, talking about subscribing to comic books and talking about the comic books specifically that I subscribe to. So in case you didn't catch the other video, like in January, like just after Christmas, I thought to myself, you know what? I miss, and when I say I miss, I mean I haven't subscribed to a comic book since I think 1986, when I subscribed to G.I. Joe, and the Marvel comic G.I. Joe back in the 80s. And I remember one thing that doesn't seem to be, it seems to be also apparent here, is, which is weird because it's digital, you would think it would just ship, but back in the day you had to fill it out, mail it in, and put a stamp on it and mail it in your subscription. So who knows how long it took to get there. Once it got there, somebody had to open it and had to, process your subscription. So they said it could take up to whatever, 8 weeks to get your subscription to your first issue, right? So they can't guarantee which one it'll be, but it'll be the next one after that's processed. Okay, so, and the thing was, it's funny because I subscribed to it and I totally forgot that I subscribed to it. So when it came in, it's like, whoa, hey. And then I got the 12 issues of G.I. Joe, and I don't think I renewed it though. I think I just let it lapse. But I kind of liked that, and it was funny because it would come in the mail in just like a brown wrap, not even like an envelope, like literally just wrapped it around the piece of brown, like, craft paper, or grocery bag paper, and it had your, your address sticker and stuff on it, and it was like a sleeve, so meaning the comic would slip right out, and it says right on, do not bend, but whatever, and it used to come to your mailbox, and I always thought that was kind of weird, but I don't think I ever had a bad experience. I think maybe one of them might have been just a little curled or whatever, but it straightened out fine. And this is back in '86, and I wasn't even buying, I think I was buying comic book bags then, but I wasn't even buying boards. Like, bags were a new thing. Like, oh, I'm going to buy comic book bags. I think I started that in like 85, like the end of 85. Where I bought like 100 bags, comic book. I think it was 100 comic book bags were like $2.99 or $3. I think they're like $10 now, or $15 for 100 comic book bags, and they weren't the resealable ones. We had to take the tape, and I would bag them. But boards were just like, I don't even really think anybody really even messed with boards yet. That wasn't really a big normal thing. It seemed like the board thing became a 90s thing. In early, late 80s, 90s. I remember when I first started getting comic book boards, I liked to use them to draw on. I would literally flip the comic book board over to like the rougher side, and I would redraw pages, my favorite pages of the comic book, to size right on that board. I remember doing a bunch of the McFarlane, the Hulk versus Wolverine McFarlane issue. But anyways, so I had a hankering for subscribing, and I thought, okay, I'm going to subscribe to a couple of comic books and just see how it goes. I haven't done it so long. That way, I remember, it's easier for me to get them that way because they just come to your mailbox. And I was just curious, how much is a subscription? Because I know comic books like $3.99 or $4, I think. What are they? Yeah, $3.99, which seems to be crazy expensive. But, I mean, I remember when they really raised the comics to $1.99, like in the late 90s, so I guess 20 years later, it's not unheard of that they're $4. However, just like back in the day, when you got a subscription, you'd save money. And I'll show you, I'll go to the subscription page just to show you, but I think, regardless of what you think about modern comics, as far as the price in being an issue, I highly suggest that you just subscribe. Let's say you got a handful, let's say there's 5 titles that you really like, or maybe there's only 2, like I've only got 2 subscriptions. So there's 2 titles, like I'm going to read these 2 titles, rain nor shine, if the comic's good or bad, I'm going to read these 2 titles and collect them, and, but I don't want to. But my hurdle is I don't want to pay $4 a comic, you know. So I highly suggest doing the subscription rates because it's almost half off. I mean, I think when it breaks down to it, it's 45% off. It breaks down to like just under $2.50 a comic. Now remember, if the late '90s I was paying $1.99 for a comic, just over $2 20 plus years later, that's totally realistic. I mean, that's completely. I have no problem paying that kind of money. I think that's what comics should. I think comics should cost about $2.50 nowadays. Maybe $3 at most, $2.99, but $3.99 is a little steep, and some of them pushing $4.99 and even $9.99. Like a double, a double issue, double size issue. But anyways, so let's get to the comics that I subscribe. But before we do that, let's remember I don't script these, so I'm kind of just going off the cuff here. Let's go to. Go pull up. I'm going to pull up the page here. So if you go to subscriptions.marvel/store/search.asap, it'll take you, well, it probably won't take you to this screen. I clicked on comics, like view all, yeah, I clicked all series. But as you can see there, yeah, up to 45% off the next 12 issues of your favorite Marvel comic. And here's the other thing, free shipping. That doesn't seem like a big deal, but I think it is, because not only are you getting it for almost half off the cover price, you're also getting it with free shipping. Now here's the thing, I don't have anything against comic book shops. I love Cashman's, my local comic book shop, and I don't want to see them lose business. And they give like a 10% or 15% discount off a cover if you have them do a pull list for you, and that's great. But the thing is, if you've got a car, or if you got means to get there pretty easily, I would go that route. Support your local business. Me personally, I don't have a car, so I'm not driving, and to get to Cashman's, if it's like now, like in the summer and the spring, I can ride my bike. It's not really a haul, but I mean, it's about maybe a 20-minute bike ride, 15-20-minute bike ride from here, which is fine. I've got saddlebags on my bike, so I can, load it up with stuff that I buy. But and I'll be doing that more often once the weather gets better. But if it's very convenient for me to have something to send to my house, and it also kind of keeps, because if you're relying on going to the comic book shop all the time, sometimes you're like, oh, I don't want to go, or it's like, I don't really like the last few comics I've been getting, and then you kind of stop, and then you have these holes in the collection, and then you want to start up again. I think it's just easier just to subscribe. You're going to get the whole year worth of comics, 12 issues. You don't have to worry about missing one, depending on which one you start at, which one it comes in when you subscribe. And you'll get, I just think it's better. I think it's cool. Like I said, regardless what you think about modern comics, regardless what you think about Marvel, DC right now, all of that aside, let's just say they're the best stories in the world, and they're awesome, right? Regardless, this conversation goes either way. I would suggest, and I'm not trying to plug for Marvel. I mean, they're not paying me a dime, and believe you me, I'm not. Lately, and when I say lately, I mean since like the late 2000s, or mid to late 2000s, I've hated Marvel Comics. I just don't like the stuff that they're putting out. I had issues with everything. And I'm not necessarily saying that they've righted the ship. Like, some of the problems that arose that really kind of turned me off to the comics are still sort of there. But I think that they're doing a better job. Now, there's things, again, this is, I mean, watch my bit on modern comics, but I have an issue with, like, all the covers are kind of weird, the color, the art. I have issues with some stuff like that. So go watch that video, and I'll go over that stuff. But regarding the, me plugging for Marvel, like I said, I'm not by any chance shilling for Marvel. I mean, for me to actually make this video and to talk about doing this means that something I've found, is kind of like a breath of fresh air. And I think what really did it for me, or seriously did it with Breath of Fresh Air, was when I had this idea, maybe I'm going to subscribe to a comic, and looking at this page and I saw, oh, they're how much? Free shipping? What? $35? Actually, some of these are even $30 a piece for 12 issues. I mean, that's, it's a great price for the comic books. I mean, you can't even... Seriously, I mean, I know that they can, but I mean, I've printed comic books before. It's hard to print a comic for less than $2. So, obviously Marvel and DC have their means to be able to cut costs on the shipping, on the printing, but still, I mean, it's a great price for comic books. So here, if you get a chance, go to this site, look for the comics you like. I'm going to show you an easier way to kind of look at what's coming out, or what you can subscribe to. I mean, this is just everything you could subscribe to, but remember back in the day when you'd go in a comic and they'd have that page that would show, the, what do you call it? Sorry. That would show the subscriptions, and they'd all just be listed by, like, the regular price ones and then, like, the premium ones, yada, yada, yada. Well, luckily, every issue that you get comes with one of those little things. It's almost like a makeshift backing board, although it's not as thick as a backing board. And this is how they come. So this is the first one I got. Came in a bag. I just cut the top off of it. So they're sealed bags. Comic's not coming out. The comic is usually shipped face down. I don't know why that is. Like, mine came specifically like this. And both of you did so far. So you'd have the mailer information here, which has my address on it. And then it would have, and it's good to see that this is actually still coming from New Hyde Park, New York. And then they'd have the back cover, with whatever the advertisement is. That's what would come. But like I said, the comics I subscribe to is Spider-Woman, because I love Spider-Woman. She's one of my favorite characters. And of course, remember, I like the female characters. I've said it a million times. I like the female characters the best. And of course, my favorite Marvel character of all time, She-Hulk. Next to female. I mean, if you're going to go dude, like I said, Wolverine's probably still my favorite male character. Or, yeah, still probably Wolverine. But, so this one, I got this one, came at number 4. But here's the thing, it still kind of did the same thing. I subscribed for these back in like early January, and I didn't get the first one until like the end of February. So the whole thing back in the day where it's like it could take up to 8 weeks, it took up to 8 weeks to get the first issue. So I didn't get 3, I got 4, which is fine. But the thing is, I'm like, why does it take so long? I order these digitally. It should just be like, boom, the order comes in, send them the current comic. If it was January, they should have sent number 3. But that's not how it went. So I got number 4. I'll get into the comics themselves, and I'll show you. I got digital versions of them, so I'll show you the digital versions as well. And of course, then She-Hulk number 6, which just came. So this is the March issue for Sensational She-Hulk. Real quick, let me just show you. So those cards. And you can clip it off and use it as an order form. I don't know why you would when you just go online and do it. So here's like the advertisement for it, right? And like I said, most of the mainstream titles are $30.64 a piece. It says save up to 40% up, or 40% up cover. I think it's a little more than 40%, but I'd have to do the math on that. And these are the main normal line comics that are available for subscription. You've got the Avengers, you got Black Panther, Blade, Captain Marvel, Deadpool, Doctor Strange, Fantastic Four, Ghost Rider, Guardians of the Galaxy, Immortal X-Men, Invincible Iron Man, Miles Morales Spider-Man, Sensational She-Hulk, Spectacular Spider-Man, Spider-Gwen, the Spider-Ghost, Spider-Woman, Venom, X-Force, X-Men, and X-Men Red. And of course, the premium comics are Alien, Amazing Spider-Man. I found it interesting that Amazing Spider-Man was a premium issue. It's probably because they've got John Romita doing art, and they're paying him buco bucks, so they're going to get a few dollars extra for it. Captain America, also no longer a mainstream title. It's a deluxe or premium. Carnage, Daredevil, same thing. Immortal Thor, Punisher, Spider-Boy, Superior Spider-Man, Ultimate Black Panther, Spider-Man, and X-Men, meaning the Ultimates. Vengeance of the Moon Knight, and Wolverine. I was wondering if there anything else I would like to subscribe to. I would say maybe the X-Men and maybe Amazing Spider-Man, even though it's the premium one. Just because, that was always my comic, was X-Men and Amazing Spider-Man. And maybe I will in the future. I don't know. But for now, I'm just getting the two. Because, like I said, I like the lady characters, and they're not bad. So I'll get into the comic themselves. So when I first got Spider-Woman number 4, obviously I didn't get number 1. I read through the comic, and here I'm going to pull up the digital one here. Go to single page, okay. Let's see, flip it over here. Alright, so here's number 4. It's a great cover. I think it's a really nice cover. I think the artwork in it is good. I'm not 100% sold on it, but I think it's good. I've never really had much. I have issues with some of the way the artwork has been done in the newer comics, but the actual artwork itself, as meaning the actual drawings of the characters and the backgrounds, I don't really have a problem with. I think it's fine. Now, of course, she's got her original red suit on. Let's just go over the particulars real quick. Steve Fox, the writer, Carola Borelli, I'm assuming in Italian, Arif Prianto, colorists. I'm not going to name the rest of the guys, but you got a letterer. Here's one thing I found interesting. With the current environment in comics and just in media in general, I was very surprised that this is a female, it's a lead female comic, right? And it's written by a dude. You might not think that's an issue, but it seems like most of the female-driven comics are written by women, because I don't know what their reasons are. I'm assuming it's because they think that dudes can't write women, or, if you don't represent the character, you can't create the, I don't know, whatever. The artists are almost always dudes. Not that there's some female artists, but not just they're only dudes. They're always Spanish or Italian, because they work for cheap. Almost every artist now is Spanish or Italian, because Marvel and DC can hire them for less money. Outside of the fact that they're paying, John Romita Jr. astronomical page rate, they're paying the rest of these people nothing, really. And they're working for it just fine. So they're going to go out and they're going to get these people from other countries. Now, that said, I have nothing against their artwork. I think their artwork's great. And matter of fact, I think the European comics are outstanding, and I think some of these artists that are European, I think, are amazing. So I have nothing against the quality of the artwork. I just find it funny that every time I open a comic book, it's always got some guy from, somewhere in Europe. It's usually Italy, Spain, sometimes Mexico, and it's just like, I just roll my eyes every time. That's how I roll my eyes first. Same thing with the colorists. It's like they've got all these people with these. I'm not going to make fun of their name, but I'm just saying, is you open up a comic nowadays, and Steve Fox, it's spelled with an E on the end of Fox. That's a pretty normal name, but every time you open these comics, it's like reading like the cast of Rogue One. It's just like oogala blah blah blah. It's like what? Does anybody have a normal name like Steve Fox? Apparently not. But the other thing is, the only female that's working on this book I find odd is the editor, Ellie Pyle. Don't know who she is, but I'm just saying this. It's a female-driven book, and you would think that all the editors would be female, all the writers would be female. They're going to get a dude to draw it anyways. They're going to get some Italian or Spanish guy to draw it. But you would think that all of the editorial staff and the writing staff would always be female. And because it wasn't, I was just like, I mean, that's not a selling point for me, but I'm just saying is I scratched my head like, that's a little odd in this day and age. Um, it's neither good nor a bad thing. Do I think dudes can write female characters? Sure. They probably write them from a male point of view. Is that a problem? you know, some female writers, write male characters from a female point of view. Is that a problem? I don't personally like it, but I don't find it to be an issue, is what I'm saying. So let's get into it. So like I said, look at the art. I mean, the art's nice. I think it's great. I think she's drawn very appealing. They're giving her curves. I mean, this girl's costume is spray painted on. I mean, they make it look a little baggy in spots, and of course it would be. It would bunch up in certain, your joints. But yeah, I mean, it's almost impossible for somebody to parade around in her costume and not be showing curves, especially if she's semi-athletic. And in this version of Spider-Man, Jessica drew, she recently had a kid, so she's holding it together pretty well for just having a kid. They got the nice long black hair. It looks really amazing. I think it's, if you go back and look at the original Spider-Woman comic, like the Carmine Infantino, I know it's dated, but I mean, really, I think it's on par, if not better. This person in particular, they do weird things though with certain, curves and lines on somebody too. They just sometimes it's weird. It's just like but I've seen it before. A lot of I don't know, just like a few weird things. Like her feet look really big in there, like too big. But anyways, sometimes it's funny. It's got like, look at her stance there. I mean, she's kind of dazed. So she's going to have like the knees tucked in type of thing. I mean, that's cool. At least they're showing emotion, or they're showing drama there with the drawing. I think that's nice. The faces are okay. I'm not a huge fan of this person's faces. Yeah, see the bottom panel there? Her whole pelvic area and her legs look too thin. I don't know, she looks weird. But again, I think she's supposed to be a little older. Not saying that, because you're older, you're going to let yourself go, but if you've got, here's the thing, if you have superpowers and you have super strength, so she has just like Spider-Man, she has a strength of, a spider's strength equivalent to in human, at that scale, whatever the bullshit is behind that science. But anyways, it's comic book science. But regardless, I understand where they're going with it. But if you're that strong, do you really need to exercise and work out outside to tone yourself for aesthetics views? Aesthetics. And if you did say she's going to do nothing but squats all day, so she looks good in that costume, if you're really strong, wouldn't you have to be like squatting like a school bus, or a car, to add the weight on it to kind of make it proportional to a normal person doing squats with just their own body weight? So again, I'm not going to get into the realism. It's a comic book, but I'm just saying, a lot of sometimes this like effects and stuff. I'm not a huge fan of this. Sometimes it looks okay here, but I think if they just had that in focus, I call it in focus, is when you can see the lines. I think if they did that in focus, I think it would look it would have popped off the screen. I think some of the effects they use, like the hand here, to do, to show motion and stuff. Sometimes I'm not really a big fan of that. I don't mind a snapshot caught in time, like a sports photo where it's really crisp. Like you can see back in Sports Illustrated where they got a lot of motion going on, but they've captured that point in time perfectly, and it's all in focus. I think that looks fine. But here's the thing about this comic, though. Let's talk about the story a little bit. I'm kind of talking about the art. Again, art looks nice. Is going into it, right off the bat, you're starting with action, for the most part, right? But I'm like, who is this guy? Oh, he's called, what the hell was he called? Now I can't even remember his name. Oh, Green Mamba. The Green Mamba. And then she says it's her son who's been, a spoiler alert, her son who was taken by Hydra and then age accelerated So I don't know anything. I don't even know why when she, I mean, I know she was pregnant for a while and she had a son, but that's about all I know. I don't know anything about the story behind it. I don't know. I never saw Madam Web the movie, and I don't know anything about the Madam Web thing. And they start talking about things right off the bat. Now here's the thing. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't want to get into a comic book unless I know the backstory." There's lots of comics back in the day that I didn't know what the hell's going on. I jumped into it on whatever issue, and I just started reading it. And by like maybe the third or fourth issue that I got in sequence, I'm like, I got the story. And eventually, maybe if I found the back issue, I'd go back and read it, and I'd kind of put two and two together. But I mean, I started well into the hundreds into X-Men when it came out. I didn't know, I didn't know anything about the all-new X-Men as far as like where it started. I didn't know anything about that, didn't know what Giant Size was, and do none of that. But I just started with the X-Men and just started reading it. And so, like both of these, and the good thing is they are pretty low in numbers at the moment. You're getting it pretty much right after it started. So I find it fine. But I was a little like, huh? I had to read it through it a couple of times. And here's the other thing is, I also find that with digital comics, the digital comics are nice, right? You throw them on your tablet, read them, yada, yada, yada. But the thing is, I don't have a connection to this specific issue anymore. And therefore, I find it, it's forgettable. And I probably, unless there's something that really stood out, I'm probably never going to go through it again. But when you've got, and I leave these out, like when I get an issue, I sit it in the bag, but I let it sit out on the table, my end table's out there in the living room. I'll let it sit on my desk here while I'm working. And I'll pick it up, and it's I'm forced to keep picking it up and looking through it. You know what I mean? And then I'll kind of reread the section again. Like, oh, I missed that the first or the second time I read it. Oh, I missed that. You know what I mean? So I'm actually going back and actually doing what I did as a kid. Where remember, I couldn't read very well as a kid, so it literally took me 3 or 4 or 5 times of just poking through the comic to actually really get the story. And by doing so, I got more of a connection with the art, and I revisited back and forth. I'm finding that by just leaving them around the house, having them there available, I do that. And so, you don't get a new one for another month. So they sit there for a month until I'm done, And after a month, I've read through it probably 3 or 4 times, and I kind of got it. I find when you go to the comic shop and you buy, a stack of comics, let's say buy 10 comics, right? You spend $30 or $40 or 50 sometimes. You bring them home, like on a Saturday afternoon, and you just start reading through them all, and then you bag them and board them and throw them in a box, and they never come out again. There's so many times I try to keep starting, I got the Legacy Marvel, I've got the Marvel Now. There's so many different times I tried to start reading Marvel comics and specifically, and I bought 2 of them, too many of them at once, and I just read through them, and I put a bag and board into the box, and I never saw them again. I'm trying this differently. I want to try to. The thing is, I'm going to force myself. I want to like new comics. Now, I'm not saying that means that they're going to be great, but the thing is, I'm approaching it with a different strategy, much so like a strategy I had when I was younger, to appreciate them a little bit more and maybe not dismiss them right off the bat so quickly. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't make the story any good. I mean, by the time you read 5 issues, if the story's not that great, the story's not that great. Or if the artwork's not that great, you can't really change that. But you can change the way that you interact with them, and I think that might have been, for me personally, maybe not everybody else, but for me, I think that was an issue I was literally, no pun intended, an issue I was having with reading them. So, again, like I said, I didn't know anything about it. Captain Marvel shows up into it. And it kind of leaves you off, this guy transforms into this big... I thought it was the Hulk at first, because I think that top panel is amazing. That's a great panel. I don't like all the motion lines, but I think it still looks amazing. I think all the energy effects in the green's a little overdone, But as far as black, if you were to look at that black and white as a line art, you'd be amazed how nice that looks. I think her leg is a little too narrow here. Her hip, I understand the hip. I mean, that's great. But I think that leg is raised up a little too high and looks a little odd there. I don't know why her boobs are smashed together. If that's because some of them, they're just hanging there. So if that suits the way it is, that arm is back, right? She's got an arm back, and she's got an arm going forward. Okay, your whole pectoral muscle is going to move this way with that one. That makes sense for it to be angled in. Her other one shouldn't have cleavage. It shouldn't be having your boobs smashed together. That arm's back. That one, your whole pectoral muscle is going to move this way. So both of them are going to kind of move back side to side on her chest like that. Like if it was a dude and you just saw the pec muscles, you'd see that elongated pec muscle as that arm's back. And then the compressed pec muscle. I mean, I don't have much pec muscles, but I mean, I could feel it compressing as my arm goes forward, and I could feel it stretch as my arm goes back. I think that their anatomy's a little wonky there. But I can overlook that, because if it's a strong composition, which it is a strong composition, I think you can overlook a little of those things. I'm glad to see that they're not afraid to be drawing you from behind there, but it's a little weird square. I don't know, it's like that line there is a little too far in. It should be, I would round it out, but that's just my proclivities, so I round that out. Because if this one's rounded out, I would round that. The only way this would be a flatter line is if her thigh twists this way, and in order to twist your thigh that way, if she's standing with her legs that far apart, just twist your foot top. Yeah. I think anything, her knee would come in, her calf would come out, or her shin would come out, and with that, it would turn her leg this way, and that would make her glute pop that way. But again, it's just me. Like I said, I spent years studying anatomy, and that's what I do for a living. So I just notice little things like that, and I'm gonna be. I mean, this guy's making. He's probably making about the same money I'm making, which I'm not making a lot. But I mean, I'm just saying he's working for a top tier comic for a top tier company. I would expect a little bit more, but it seems like that's just the way things are nowadays. But the rest, I mean, I think it's stylization, it's composition. Some of these pages though are a little weird. Like, I don't know. You've got three long shots of her there, in a medium shot of the guy, and then you got, I don't know, sometimes there's a little bit, even though the bow of that boat is so long, I would have probably compressed things a little bit more. I would have made her a little bigger, I would have made him a little bigger, and maybe angled that ship down, I don't know. Again, here's that weird kind of like cut. I know I'm hyper-focusing on that, but it's what I hyper-focus on, so, it is what it is. I don't know. It's funny, when I saw this, I mean, I saw her show up earlier, but I thought to myself, like, is somebody else drawing her on this page? Because that is not a strong drawing, and neither is that one. She's okay there, but this is just a little wonky. And it has nothing to do with the angle. It's a little wonky. But see, I like this, though. You see how short Spider-Woman's actually pretty short compared to Captain Marvel. That's pretty cool. That's nice. And then spoiler alert, Madam Mask shows up at the very end. So, that's the comic. It says pretty good. I have gone back and I've got the digital copies for issues 1 through 3, and I read 1 through 2 just because now I kind of want to know what happened. And I went back and I read 1 through. I still have to read number 3, but it didn't really help them. I mean, I know who this guy is. Diamondback here. I know who he is more now. What's going on, because it's all part of this gang war, which I'm going in blind, so. It's kind of like when I read Gang Wars back in the 80s. I went in blind. I didn't know really what... I was like, oh, it looks cool. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, that is what it is on that one. So the second one, which I'll show you here. Let me put this one back in the thing. I like to keep these in the back just so I can reference this. And then probably got the wrong bags and wrong. It doesn't really matter. I'm using these as my comic book bags. Just hey, they came with it, and eventually I'll put it in a bag and board. But for now, I can just pull it out easily. Still keeps the dust off of it, and I can pull it out and keep looking at it until I get the next issue. So now we'll go to She-Hulk number 6, and I have got 1 through 5 digitally, but I have not read them at all yet. So I'll probably go back and do. I kind of was looking at that until I started collecting it. But let's pull that one up here. Where is it? There it is. Alright, so let's flip you back here. So here we go. Sensational She-Hulk number 6. The covers are okay. I'm not a huge fan of them. This cover's fine. Obviously, you're thinking, oh, she's going to be going into space. See, I kind of said that. I said, why don't... just like the original Sensational She-Hulk, it's just like, I liked it when she went to space, right? I think she should do that again. I want to see aliens. I want to see that whole kind of absurd, kind of weird world. I think she should go to space. I'm getting kind of sick of her just going to work, coming home, and eating pizza with Jack of Hearts, or going and they're sitting there having bubble tea. That's my joke, is they're always having bubble tea. It's just like, one issue's fine. Like I said, just a section of the comic should be the way it is, but it just seemed like it just kept going. It's like, I don't care what they're eating, I want to see something happen. And then Rainbow Rowell, I can't say her name. Rainbow Rowell? Rainbow. That's kind of an odd name. Whatever. Look at the artist. Guerrera. That's on Spanish. Again, I tell you every single time. But like I said, I don't think that's an issue. I just roll my eyes at it for reasons that I explained. But outside of that, their art's fine. The art was kind of wonky in the like limited series ish, but now that they started as a Sensational She-Hulk, I think the artwork's gotten better. And of course, you got the colorists and stuff like that. Just curious. So yeah, so this one's got. So Kat, I'm assuming it's short for Catherine. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that last name. Like I said, production. I don't know what production is. Is it the producer? Someone who produced the comic, I guess. You got the letterer. Yeah, it's not a sausage fest like it is in the other one. You've got more females in this, but that's kind of what I expected. And Rainbow's been doing the writing on her, I think, since they relaunched the She-Hulk, in that last series, which I read most of that, but I don't own any of it. I just have digital versions of it. But anyways, but it kind of continues from that. So, like I said, the artwork looks fine. I think she looks great. Her hair's a little too chunky, but I like the shape. I like the overall silhouette of her hair. I think she looks cool. I think she's big, but not, and she still has her curves. She's got long legs. I like this purple suit she's wearing. It seems to look a lot better on a comic book character than it does live action. And then there's Mallory Book being Mallory Book. So they're arguing over, again, I'm going into this blind. I didn't read any of the comics before, but this one's a little bit easier to jump onto because she basically says why she's being suspended. Spoiler word, she's being suspended. And then I notice, Carcass is going to show up in this. And of course, Jack of Hearts is still there. Now, I don't mind Jack of Hearts. I remember I had the limited series back in the day. I thought he was a cool-looking character, but they just turned him into that kind of guy, and I'm not a big fan of that kind of guy in the comic. I don't want to see my female superheroes with any dudes. I want them to be perpetually single forever, just because that's the way I think about it. Like I said, I don't like it when Rogue and Gambit are together. I'd rather, them not, but that's just how I interact with comic books. As stupid as that is, that's how I interact with comic books. Nice, they totally retraced that drawing right onto the next panel. It's fine. But like I said, she looks good there in the suit. I like the facial expressions. I like the emoting. There's Awesome Andy. There he is. He's waving. That part's funny. There's certain parts of this I thought were funny. I thought the first series too by Rainbow I think was funny. There was incidents where I generally laughed, like now I laughed out loud. But did she reuse that same? Just tweaked it a bit. No, anyways, like I said, not enough other things are going on. So this is kind of funny. This is shaping up like a good comic. See, I think she looks amazing there. Look at the stance with those pants flare out. You know, they got her chests all pushed up in that shirt. Arms a little long there, but outside of that, I think that looks like that's a great drawing. She's a little too short there, a little squat there, but that's a nice drawing. And you know, in drawing an overhead, a bird's eye view like that, walking into a room, that's not an easy drawing to do. So I applaud that panel. I like how he's coming through the door. That's funny too. Like I said, they get some subtle humor, but I like that subtle humor. This is kind of like what Byrne did. A lot of subtle humor. And I just like look on his face like, well, what? What's going on here? I like how he just comes in and starts, you know, acting like a douche. But again, great drawing of her. Really like those pants on her. She looks nice. Looks great face, great hair. Like I said, this little needle dick. I don't like this guy. She looks great there. I think she's drawn really well. I really think she's amazing looking, which she should be. Oops. Again, so the whole premise of the story is that they're going to go to space. She's suspended for 2 weeks. They're supposed to represent Karak and the other guy, and I can't remember his name is, and they need a place. They're being evicted. They need a place to live. So she's like, "Hey, how about you guys live here for 2 weeks until I come back, and we'll figure out what's going on, and you guys lay low, and we're gonna go on a cruise." Okay, we're gonna go on a cruise to space. Okay. And then, of course, I like that. I thought that was funny. That's a nice callback to the old Byrne comic. She pulls out the flying Cadillac, or whatever it is, DeSoto. I think it's a Cadillac. Flying Cadillac. I thought that was funny. That's pretty cool. Like I said, great face. Great. The faces are perfect. I think there's not a problem with the faces. I'm not a big fan of him, but I mean, he's drawn well. And then this is very purple, but I mean that's kind of purple and green is kind of her thing. You got aliens running around. You've got you know, these cool looking space cruiser thing. I think it's is it a resort or a cruiser? I can't remember. Again, I'm gonna have to read it. I've only read this one once. I'll have to read this one through again. And then it looks amazing. Absolutely amazing. I'm supposed to look amazing. It's supposed to be stunning in that dress. But just the way she's drawn looks really good. She left a suit up for him. He's got the suit looks a little flat, like it's a iron on to that bedspread. He should have made it a little more piled up. Sorry. I don't have a drink. I get the hiccups. Aliens. Top of the morning to you. I always check. You know what I would be doing. But anyways, she goes to the bar. Again, now this is... Okay, here's the thing. She's essentially just having bubble tea, right? However, you're putting her in a different environment. We know it's kind of... It's... You know, what else? That's what she wants to do. She said she just wants to go to the pool and look fancy in dresses and... or go to the place, look fancy and drink cocktails, right? That's fine. And she meets this girl. And I'm assuming this is... she's like a sister of the Sisterhood. I'm assuming this is the Wildcats character. I'm assuming that Marvel has Wildcats, and this is either it's that girl. I can't remember her name is off the top of my head, or it's a woman of her order. I can't remember exactly what that order is. Like I said, I'm a little fuzzy on it. But she meets this girl, and she's like, oh, she avenged all of the people who, you know, her sisterhood got wiped out. And she's avenged all of their deaths. Now she has nothing to do. You know, it's kind of like the Dread Pirate Roberts. You know, now that I'm in the revenge business for so long. Now that it's over, I don't know what to do. It's kind of funny. So she's guzzling it down. So then she's consoling her, getting to meet her, and then she looks great there. Nice 2 Moon Junction. You got 2 Moon Junction going on there too. I think it looks really nice. I think the bar scene looks cool. I like the background characters. This guy sipping his drink. I think that looks good. This little guy. I love background characters like that. The goofy alien. I mean, that's why I think they even make a joke in here. It's pretty much the Jabba the Hutt. It's a Jabba's palace, which technically, I guess the cantina would have been a more apropos reference, but it's Carnival Cruise meets Jabba's palace or whatever. I thought that was kind of funny. And then, of course, he puts on the suit, and he shows up, and he's Mr. Suave in the back, and then we get this to be continued. Better start digging through those back issues. So, yeah, I don't know what... Here's the thing. The editorial staff should be putting what back issue should I be looking through? There's a lot of back issues to look through. It'd be nice if you told me which ones to look through. Maybe I should... And they don't have notes. They don't have a letters page. She's going to be in a bathing suit in the next issue. Not that that's a big deal. I mean, her normal suit is technically a bathing suit, but that's issue 7, so that would be next. So, again, I think if you want to talk which one's the better comic, I think I actually like She-Hulk a lot better than I like the Spider-Woman comic, but just because it's just a little more... It was easier to jump into. Things happened, but again... I'm hoping that something actually happens with... I mean, she meets this girl who's a sister of the Sisterhood or whatever. They're on this thing. They're in space. They're on, blah, blah, blah. I'm hoping that something's actually going to happen. She's going to get kidnapped and have to marry aliens or something. Something goofy like that, like that happened back in the old one. I like that. If she just does nothing the whole time and they just sit around and drink, Mai Tais... I wanted the pina colada, or I wanted the Mai Tai, and I got the pina colada. They're just going to do that, essentially at this resort for the entire time, their entire trip. That's going to be kind of boring. Like I said, I'd like to know what's going to happen with it, but I'm intrigued. And it's a breath of fresh air. I think the last series was a little too stale. I think by switching it over to the Sensational She-Hulk, and kind of doing and a lot of nods back to Byrne's comic. I think that's good. I think they're on the right course to making a better comic. I think a lot of people who had issues with when Rainbow first started doing this and doing that other series, I think a lot of the criticisms were justified. Because I kind of had a lot of the same criticisms as well. I mean, like I said, you could take don't worry about the woke crap and all that stuff. You could, you could throw all that stuff out the window. I don't find, in both of these comics that I've read so far, I don't really find a bunch of overly heavy-handed woke anything. I find, like I said, being that it's written from a female's point of view, I think there's a lot of things that Rainbow has put into this comic that she likes, like her own, own proclivities. Obviously she likes to eat a lot. Obviously likes to drink a lot. Obviously she likes to sit around and have discussions, and she likes mousy boys, right? That's fine. That's who she is. I mean, if I'm going to write a comic, I'm going to put my proclivities through, She-Hulk's going to have a lot of curves. But anyways, and she's going to be running around, probably not a lot. But, I mean, that's just my proclivities. That's what I would do. But Marvel would never let that happen, so we don't have to worry about that happening. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's a nice comic. I'm glad to have subscribed to it. I'm glad to subscribe to both. I'm looking forward to a year worth of these comics and checking them out. I also like when I forget that I forgot that I subscribed it, and then I go to the mailbox and I got a comic book in there. Hey, that's pretty cool. Just FYI, when I was at the comic book shop too, I'm gonna have them start putting these so they don't run out. I actually like these. I've been I've got the January. I got 28, which is January for March, which is this month, and then February for April, and then I'm assuming in that's February for April. So the March one should be out. 30 should be out. I was hoping I can get one. I'm gonna probably go to there this Saturday and check my box, and I'll hopefully get one of these. I'm gonna ask him if he can start just dropping one in my box, so I make sure. Yeah, they're free, but the preview guide. I kind of like it. I like going through it. I want to know more about this. Some people say the comic's terrible. Some people say she's good. Jackpot character. I don't know enough about her. I know she's new. Like I said, I like the female characters, so I'm always going to be, like that. I think that's not an Arthur Adams cover, but I did see this Miss Marvel Mutant Menace limited series. I was looking at that. Again, you'd have to just buy those because you can't, or download them because you can't get a subscription to those. You've got Black Widow and Hawkeye teaming up. I've noticed that, this isn't a new thing, but I've noticed in the last, say, 10 years, man, they just love their limited series. It's like, I would say probably half the comic books, if not more than half the comic books that come out every month are limited series, because there's not really a lot of core. There's about the same amount of core series that there was back in the day. I'll probably pick that up when it comes out. The X-Men 97. It should be out. Actually, it shows when. I think it comes out at the end of the month. I think it comes out after the first episode drops. But I think I might pick up that comic. I'm looking forward to the show. I'm hoping it doesn't suck. But yeah, like I said, it shows the facsimiles in here too. I've been doing a lot of these posters too. There's a poster of that Wolverine issue, and then there's a poster of that X-Men. And it seems like they're doing a poster. They're doing a lot of cool posters. I said, I want to pick up a couple of posters and throw them up on the wall too. But again, I'm kind of excited for Marvel right now. I'm kind of excited about new comics, which is, like I said, is an odd thing to say because I've been dreading them and hating them for so long. I've been, like I said, just been really. I've been checking out what comes out every week online, and I download a few comics just to check them out, and nothing really catching my attention. I would say I was following that first She-Hulk issue series, but now I think that they're taking a step in the right direction. Whether or not they've totally fixed the ship or whatever, or steered the ship back on course, I would say no, but they're definitely taking a step in the right direction. Are these comics, mind blowing? No, but they're pretty good entertainment, and like I said, I just been enjoying them, and I enjoy doing the subscription. So I'll leave you off on that one. Remember, like and subscribe if you like this. I'm gonna probably most likely do one of these. I say this before, and then I ended up not following through. But I think, again, having the subscription will prompt me to do this every month. But I'll probably talk about the issues, each one that I get as I get them, and tell you what I think, and tell you where I think the story's going. If the story's starting to suck, if the artwork's starting to blow, blah blah blah. But I'm optimistic, and I'm keeping an open mind about it, and I'm trying not to be so negative on it or dismiss it right away. And so far, so good. Like I said, I like to see where the Spider-Woman story is going. It's not something that I necessarily am super interested in right away, but this one I like. I like to see where this one's going. So, all right, I'll let you guys go, and I'll catch you on the next one. And again, I'll keep you up to date about these when I get them. And then I'll probably, if I could do a haul this weekend, because I'm going to go out and do some shopping. I usually go out every other weekend and go do some shopping. I'm going to hit the comic book shop, and I'll tell you what happens there. Maybe the records shop and blah, blah, blah. But in the meantime, I will catch you later. Bye-bye.